most species wanted to come to. This is all holographic projections in 3D. Mm-hmm. And our consciousness is in the video game, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? And we getting the information. Somebody's playing with the joystick, manipulating the DNA in order to get the message when the mitochondria send the signal. Mm-hmm. Right? It's computer animated, digitally enhanced. Right? This is why you have ancient technology returning, like the healing chamber in the med bed. People talking about that's the newest technology. No, that shit ancient.
Right.
It's part of the part called the hereafter in the story of the redemption of the earth in the holy drama of the Assyrian resurrection. They tell you it's the Christ story in the Bible, but it's the Assyrian resurrection. That's why everybody got it slightly off. They looking at it from the reflection of an original story's reflection. And then they don't even know the actual people that existed that they telling the innuendo story about without using the name of the person. The Isis of the day was Cleopatra, and they haven't found her tomb. Mm. It's the synchronicities with the story. The story of the Christ was written a 21-part play by Josephus Flavius. It was to be 21 different people looking at the story of this Christ character from 21 different angles, and they all had a gospel. A gospel was the good news, a good story. They all had a good story from their angle. But as soon as you get caught in one angle, you can't see the rest of the story. Mm-hmm. And it's an entertainment purposes. It's psychologically alluring. It's a hypnotic play being played out in order to seduce your mind into believing a paradigm that they can control. Mm-hmm. And that's how you enslave the mind at the most basic core portion of understanding.
Mm-hmm. You know, I want to use music as an example, Rod. Sometimes the older artists, they've been making good music for so long that they need a new muse. So what they do is they get with a younger artist, and the younger artist gives them a muse, and they create magnificent music. Now, if life is music and we're old souls and we've been creating music in this realm for a long time, do you think us getting with some of the younger souls, like let's say the Caucasian species is a younger group, when we get with them, do you think we will create great music because they offer a fresher perspective? When we've been here for so long, we've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, we tired of this shit. So us having a seed with the Caucasian race, do you think that offers or bring forth a soul that's totally different from what the world has ever seen before because of the mixture of DNA?
That was all part of a game called white supremacy. It was a multi-dimensional chess game.
White supremacy is a multi-dimensional game.
It's part of a multi-dimensional chess game. White supremacy's foundation is called Protocols of Zion. Right? And the script is written as morals and dogma. And it's telling you basically how you follow the dogma, and the ones follow the morals is the only ones going to see the story. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right? And then the story going to be being told, played out. Ain't it something America came in with George and left with George? Mm-hmm. Right? Because even when Obama was president, as long as the old man was living, he was King George, the first of the United States of America, passed by Senate subcommittee in 1991. Mm-hmm. In the wee hours of the morning. Mm-hmm. Right? William Cooper outed his ass.
Right.
Right? And it was part of a security agreement. The security agreement was to give the Illuminati or the deep state control of the government. George Bush would be the king of that government. And from then on, he was the one who controlled the next several presidents until they got to Donald J. and then his plan was derailed. All this is still playing out the story repeatedly over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they run in what they call the kabuki theater, right? Which was common in ancient Japanese culture. Then married to East meet West, the uniting of Africa and Asia, right? It's the uniting of the understanding of the mythologies, because the mythologies is just repeating the same holy drama.
Right, right.
Right. And the holy drama traces back to the Assyrian resurrection, and that the masters of the land know that when the crisis come, who to call. And they call on one of the elders, what they call the family tree, or the great pharaoh's family tree. If you look at the gods, right, and then you see Isis, Osiris, Horus, Anubis, Sekhmet, Het-Heru, right? When you're going through them, they all got a different function. Those are parts of the family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everybody at each function have to teach one of the children in the family how to perform each one of the functions of each person in the family, so that when he get to the top, now he know how to set the family structure back up.
Mm-hmm.
The nuclear family, the head of the family. Right, the great family of Tahuti, the uniting of the tribes of the earth. Right, they tell you the story in the Avatar. They tell you the story in the Matrix. It's the same story from a different angle. And all of those stories create what they call the great work. Everybody got to keep the story out in the forefront until we figure it out. So we figured it out.
Hey, Rod, is it possible to incarnate in this realm, your soul? Like, is your soul simultaneously down here using different bodies, or does each soul incarnate one body at a time? How does that work, Rod?
It depends on how your DNA structure is set up. Mm-hmm. But you got, in order to be multiple personalities with the same higher self, you have to have the same DNA. It's normally 7 at a time, but those are normally masters. Mm-hmm. And then you have what they call lookalikes.
What, doppelgangers? That?
Yeah, but they lookalikes. Like you might go to Japan and see a Japanese dude with your face, but he's just lighter. Mm-hmm. Right? Then you might go to Africa and see another dude with your face, except he burnt brown.
Yeah.
Right? And then you be sitting there like, man, why did the dude in Japan got and dude over here in Africa? And you're looking at the facial cranial structure. Yeah. And the energy that comes in is the DNA tells it how to form. Y'all are tuned to the same physiological frequency in order to produce the outline of the form. Mm-hmm. And this is also another expression of the self. Mm-hmm. Right? When you have multiple mental selves, that's because you tuned in your VHF frequency to the same radio frequency as somebody else. When you become a master of your frequency, now you can use it to talk to anybody else on your frequency. Mm. Mm. Tune in the radio knob.
Right.
Yeah, you learn to control it. When you hear multiple voices, your radio stations overlap. You got to tell the other radio station, hey, turn off until you get down to the station you want to hear. Mm. Right? That's how you call practicing the control of the man, to keep the mind, the monkey mind, the Sacco Mao, from driving you into the nut house. Mm. But then some of us is conscious of how to do it, but we too lazy to do it and mad because we get the results of not doing it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We want somebody else to do it for us.
Is there anything you think a soul looks for when, like, say, when a soul's ready to incarnate down here and they're looking at a man and a woman and they know they're about to get busy and have sex? Is there any personality traits that this soul looks for? Because sometimes the people we call masses, they come from the people we least expected. They may come from a crackhead, they may come from a junkie, they may come from just a regular Joe. They don't come from sometimes you would think two conscious people produce masses, but it don't work like that all the time. So is there anything that these souls are looking for when they want to come down here, these advanced souls?
Yeah, open channels.
Elaborate on that.
Path of least resistance.
Path of least resistance.
Right, an
So,
open channel. So when you let your frequency go to a certain level, it makes the higher beings have a lesser of a struggle becoming one with the individual. And they can bring them up to a higher level faster.
So being conscious could offer resistance sometime, you think, to these souls?
Yeah, because a lot of the consciousness is rooted in the ego being strong.
Woo! That's a breakthrough. People don't even realize that. Because the consciousness is rooted in the ego being stronger, so we prevent the higher advanced souls. That's a breakthrough, brother. I got to put that on TikTok or some shit, man. Go ahead, brother. That's a breakthrough. Like,
right. Well, the struggle with you is between your higher self and your ego self. Your higher self is the one determined to drive you to do your destined purpose and is going to manipulate the hell out of your ego until they get it done. Your ego going to fight back and try to do everything my way that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. Not that it's just doing it your way. It doesn't make sense. So it's defying logic why you doing it your way that makes your higher self rebel.
Right.
And force you to go down a path that's going to force you to straighten up.
Wow.
And you doing it to yourself the whole time, trying to not be who you are, trying to be who the world told you to be. Mm-hmm. You got to be who you are. The more you want to be what the world want to be, that's the greater your ego develop. Mm-hmm. Because your ego is the sum total of all of the things people told you about yourself that you believe, and you use that as a protective defense against the inner child. And the inner child only wants the higher self to parent it and guide it through the world. Right? But the ego take over, smother the inner child, and now he's at war with the higher self. So you find them sitting in the penitentiary for 75 years. They was too real for the streets. That's what we talking about. That energy exchange with the self drives you to put yourself in a circumstance. Your higher self gonna put you wherever you gotta be in order for you to fulfill your life purpose. Yeah, sometimes your life purpose is just to deliver one message to one individual that's in a far distant place from where you currently sitting. Mm-hmm. So it would be one person listening to Brother Rich that got the message they needed to get that changed their life forever. And now you did your whole life mission. Now you can go and about your business. Mm-hmm. And create whatever life you want to after that. See, we think when we do our life purpose that it takes our whole life. Sometimes it just takes a class encounter.
Right.
You know, because we help other people to help us.
Rod, I remember one time, bro, when I was in my 20s, there was this dude, I was a street vendor in NYC, and I was selling like DVDs and stuff like that. And this dude came up to me and he started telling me about fasting. And the brother inspired me to go on the biggest fast I ever went on. I remember it to this day. It changed my life forever. Made me stop eating a lot of things I was eating. And I never seen the brother again. Seen him one time in my life. One time he inspired me to do the biggest fast I ever did. Then I just never seen the brother again. So in encounters like that, what would you describe that as? Where you do, you want to look for the motherfucker to thank him, like, yo, thank you, but I never found the brother again. It just, what would you describe?
Look, in your book of life, you might have asked for a pass right there, flea flicker.
A what? Come on, brother. You got. Come on, what did you just say, man? You asked for what?
A pass. You said flea flicker.
What's that?
Yeah. In football, flea flicker is the razzle dazzle play on the football field.
Oh, okay.
right?
Okay.
And you might have wrote in your book of life, if I happen to end up right here, that's where I want to put my
Right.
inspiration spot at. So it's like you stored it there in your life path, and if you get there, you get that inspiration. That was the reward. He was just there as the shopkeeper holding the reward until you came and got it.
Oh, damn, bro.
And he there, but he not there no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see? And your
Deep ice.
paradigm changed because of that encounter. That's how you pick up, you read the signs in your life like that. And the more you understand your path that you took, the more you understand the destiny you're supposed to take. Right? And because it's going to be training you for the next wave of events. And your greatest task going to come when you can look back on it all and know exactly why you did it. Good, bad, or indifferent. You ain't supposed to be squeaky clean, but you're going to pay for your dirt before you get out of here. That's part of the game. Right? So the dirt had to be enough to draw the misery on the person. Right? So now that they did their dirt, they enjoyed it when it happened, laugh now, cry later. But some of us wasn't about that laugh now. We was about that figure it out. Straight face. And then later, we can laugh about it because we're going to figure it out.
You know what I always hear about, Rod? I always hear about the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. They be like, yo, he on the mother wheel. He ain't passed away. He's on the mothership, or what's that called? The mothership, or the wheel, or the mother. What's up with souls like Elijah? You know, I asked you about people with masters. Where's Elijah chilling right now? Where people like Elijah?
Listen,
yeah.
Elijah got a pamphlet. It's hard to find, but it's called Radiohead.
Radiohead. Okay.
And it's about the master's ability to be on the other side. And if a person match enough of their frequency, they can talk to you through that person. And they always have to give you a clue that it's them and not that person, but you got to figure it out. So the Radiohead is the one who can master the frequency so they can tune in to who they need to get the message through. It's almost like the agents in the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just take on that person in order to get the message where it needs to go.
Where can I get this pamphlet at Radiohead? Is it available?
It was once produced by the Coalition for the Remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, called Crow. They put a lot of his lectures into book format.
Okay.
And a lot of his stuff is laced with esoteric knowledge.
Yeah.
So people thinking he's talking about one thing, but he's talking about something entirely different altogether. Right? The reason his Islam is not the same as Orthodox Sunni Islam is our culture require us to take whatever religion or whatever spiritual practice from around the world, but we have to change it and make it our own. And by making it our own, we'll put fragments of our culture in it, where when the time comes, the chiefs will know where everybody at. Right? And that's how I can trace back all of the students of Elijah Muhammad, and then I can trace the students of Marcus Garvey, and I can trace the students of Noble Drew Ali, because they all use the same methods of tribal communication of the masters to put the information in the public domain. We all looked at it, but all of us didn't know what it meant the same.
Right.
So different pay grades. Everybody ain't supposed to know the same thing. That's what we call code talking. So we could pass information that's overtly in the obvious format. Just remember, if you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in the book.
The book, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I read all them books. Because I wanted to see what they was hiding.
You know, I remember in the early 2000s, Rod, growing up in this consciousness and just watching mad Bobby Hemmett videos. He was real popular in the early 2000s. I would hear him always talk about how he communicates with individuals in the afterlife. It may be James Brown, it may be Tupac, it may be this one, that one. How do you get that? Is that something? Have you done that before? Communicate with people in the afterlife, and how do you tap into that? How do you tap into their frequency?
It's telepathy. Just because you don't have a physical body don't mean you still can't talk with telepathy. Right? And some of them come in dream format. They come as dream walkers. So you will know you're not asleep. You like in a meditative trance. And then the reality will shift. But you know you're not asleep. And then you'll be wondering, where is this place? That's called the sacred halls.
The sacred halls.
Right, the halls of Amenti. Amenti means the unknown place or the concealed place. It's concealed in the psyche as a university to educate you on the reality that you exist in. To train you up from a beginner soul to a master soul so that you can become the greatest self you can be. Like you doing your life purpose right now. It's obvious, right? Because you excel at it without being on NBC, Fox, CBS. People want to come see what Brother Rich talking about, right? And you come as with journalistic integrity, and you don't take sides in nobody's conflict among your guests, right? Because you got some guests that I would love to meet, and then you got some I better not be in the same room with them. But that's called journalistic integrity, right?
Oh man, you funny like a motherfucker. He said I better not be in the same room with oh man.
Right. But that's journalistic integrity because you ain't supposed to take sides with the people purveying the information.
Yeah.
Right. You're just supposed to get the information out, and that's what you do. Right. So like different people, you would say, I'll make that happen. Other people, you would say, yeah, I ain't gonna even ask him about that. I already know where that's gonna go. Right. And you don't mix those lines, you don't get involved in that because that ain't really none of your personal business. You just trying to get information out to the people.
Right.
Right. So I don't feel no type of way. Because everybody got a right to think, feel, believe, whatever they want. That's part of being a sovereign being. Anybody tell you don't have a right to think, feel, and believe whatever you want, they trying to control you. They trying to control you with false information. Because if you got to think about it, if you a God, right? Because you all these clowns running about, I'm a God. Right? If you a God, the first thing you understand is all of this without is the same as within. If I hate any part of that which is out, it's something on the inside I hate. The harder I hate that thing without, the more it shows up as a psychological anomaly in the physical. Right? Because you focused all of that hatred so strong that it made it resonate within the self. And it caused the cells to mutate because they don't supposed to push that negative energy through. Right? Then you got pieces of the DNA flying off with no way of chelating the blood to get it out because you following the diet that the enemy gave you and told you it was your own diet. Right? When we started making hot dogs, who did that? Right? Who started making hamburger? Right? Ground beef. Where that come from? Right? But then where these cows come from? Because we had bison. But we got what we call selective amnesia about the history of our people because they told us that we came from somewhere else and disassociated us from our people's history. All the time, they was never stop bombing our villages, and they calling them the Great Fire of this city or that city. They was burning us out.
Burning us out, right.
All of they so-called bank robbing outlaws was robbing Big Mama's banks. Every town had a Big Mama bank. You got to go back and look and study colonial history because it tell you in the history books that at one time it was a different currency for each bank, right? And that each bank's currency was a recognizable IOU to the fellow banks in the Confederacy. But we don't remember that shit because we think that we know history because we sat in on some Kumbaya Black History Month shit, right? I don't got no problem with Black history. I got a problem with erased history, misplaced history, rerouted history, redirected history. That's where my problem at. Because we see this as a Masonic practice of shifting the story slightly out of context. So it say what it say, but it don't mean what it say.
Right.
Right. This is what we was talking about when we looking at all of these different edicts that the Catholic Church is giving to slaughter us over here. Right. But then we want to be taking on false identities that disassociate us from the land so that we can get the invaders the right to seize the land. They can't have it. Right? They already lied about all these treaties because we don't believe in selling the land. You can't sell your mama.
You know, damn. Ooh. You know, Rod, you talk about the land a lot, and that's part of your soul contract. You know, is to break that conjure, like you said. You know, I hear so much about how they flooded a lot of the land. Like let's say Lake Lanier. We had these towns, they flooded it and built lakes over it. Shit, like there's so many lakes where underneath the lake, it's thousands and thousands of Black people. You hear about
it's not just the lakes.
It's the what else? See,
the sandbars of the Gulf used to have structures on them. They bombed them motherfuckers underwater. That's why you got a whole half of New Orleans is under the Gulf. Most of us don't even know that. But I remember it before it was under the Gulf.
So, Rod, that's deep. Now, check this out, Rod. With that being said and what I said, you talked earlier about species evolution. Us reincarnating in this realm, we got so many civilizations underwater. Do we eventually, because of species evolution, are we going to start incarnating under the water? Because we like shit. So many of us
we already did that before.
Like right now, are we like incarnate under the water right now?
We already did that before.
Talk to me about that, man. Come on.
There was a species of hominid that looked like a human, but it had gills. Yeah. They made a movie called Man from Atlantis based on that species of human. They don't exist no more. But the evolutionary tribe, you can trace them. They in Africa or South Africa, they dive underwater for extended periods of time. Right? That's because they mixed the tribes from the water with the tribes on the land, and the genetics from the tribes on the land eliminated the underwater breathing aspect of open-gilled rib cages. Right? So it wasn't needed. It became a genetic atrophy. It is no longer necessary. The same thing in the fish's gills is the brachia, the same thing that's in your lungs to absorb the oxygen from the water. Right? A lot of us don't know that there's a saline ambient liquid in our lungs as we absorb oxygen. And it's a buffer to allow you to absorb the oxygen. So These little things are just clues to the structure of the creation itself. When you get enough clues and you look at it from, okay, now why would God do this? But it got to make sense first. Then it got to be traceable second. And then it got to have a optimum conclusion that comes to a grand finale. And the conclusion should bring all of the negativity back to balance. Right? So you go back and you look at where was the anomaly? It was in the history books. Where was the plan hatched? Notre Dame University. How do you know this? Because the slave ship is a perfect layover for Notre Dame University. That's where they hatched the plot. What was the plot based off of? Plato's Republic, right? It's a democratic society, right? So when we're looking at the Republic, how is it playing? What's the narrative playing out? What chapter of the Republic are we in? This is the part of the Republic where the Republic falls for the greed of the ones that were sitting in the places of power of the Republic. They greed caused it to fall because they defaulted on all of their loans. And then they tried to take out loans on the default. Somebody got to come. The bill always comes due. They bill is due. Their time is up. Our time is now. But our people still supporting their old system instead of going back to our system. This is all energy exchange. They're talking about waking up from the three-dimensional reality of a fixed position mind state, being stubborn to the obvious changes that's in front of you. That slows down progress. Bunch of bulls got their feet stuck in the ground. You can't pull them asses nowhere. Right? Somebody needs some carrots on some sticks. Get them heifers moving.
Rod, man, we about to get out of here, man. I want to thank you once again, man, for the awesome, amazing show. I want to get to a question from the people in the chat before we get out of here. I started a little late tonight, y'all, but I'm gonna give me some questions in the chat. I'm gonna take one question in the chat before we get out of here. That thing, what you said while somebody comes up with a question, Rod, that thing you said about the halls of Amenti, that